What if the food on your plate was hiding a secret? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a silent epidemic unfolding in India, one that's hidden in plain sight, in our very own kitchens and on our dinner tables.
So, let me ask you a question, straight up. How safe is the food you're eating? You'd think that's a simple question, right? Well, the answer is way more complicated than you might think. And honestly, what you're about to see might just change the way you look at your next meal.
All right, let's start with a number, 100 million. That's the official estimate for how many people get sick from food in India every single year. But here's the kicker. Pretty much every expert agrees this is a lowball estimate. The true number is likely far, far higher.
And that leads us to this number, 120,000. That's how many deaths are linked to those illnesses each year. And these aren't just statistics, you know? These are real tragedies, often just brushed off as a bad case of food poisoning, but that's hiding a much, much deadlier reality.
So what in the world is causing this crisis? Well, that brings us right to the heart of the issue, the really unsettling truth of what's actually in our food, the kind of stuff that you will never see printed on a label. Let's take milk. I mean, it's a daily staple in millions of homes, right? But to increase the volume, to make it seem frothier, it's often diluted, not just with water, but with things like urea and even detergent. Yeah, you heard that right. A basic source of nutrition is being turned into a potential health hazard. Now let's move over to the spice box. You know those beautiful, vibrant colors? Sometimes they're a complete lie. We're talking about sawdust being mixed into turmeric or brick powder being added to chili, all just to make the color pop. It's a trade-off we don't even know we're making. A prettier color at a devastating cost to our health.
And this deception doesn't stop there. It extends to our fresh produce. Vegetables are sometimes coated in wax or even industrial dyes like malachite green, just to give them that shiny, farm-fresh look. It's basically a shiny poison designed to trick our eyes while it's harming our bodies.
Now, you can imagine, consuming these kinds of foods day after day puts an incredible, invisible burden on our bodies. The cost isn't obvious at first. It just quietly accumulates over years and years until the damage is really severe.
Some of these chemicals are neurotoxic, which means they can actually harm a developing brain. This can lead to long-term cognitive damage that we might never, ever trace back to the food that was eaten years ago.
And then you've got the immediate threats. Contaminants, especially in street food, lead to chronic stomach and gut infections. And this is so much more than just a stomachache. It's a vicious cycle that's a major factor in India's high rates of malnutrition.
But maybe the most frightening part of all this is the long-term impact. Heavy metals, pesticides, they don't just pass through our bodies. They build up. They accumulate in our liver, in our kidneys, and over the years, this toxic load can lead to silent organ failure and a much higher risk of cancer.
This entire problem just gets magnified exponentially on the streets. India has this massive, incredible, vibrant street food culture, but so much of it is an informal sector, operating with very few safety checks. And that just makes it a huge high-risk environment.
Just to put this into perspective for you, a study in Kolkata found that over 80% of street food handlers didn't use gloves. I mean, that one single statistic tells you everything you need to know about the huge hygiene challenges and the risk of contamination.
So, with all of this going on, you have to be asking, who's fighting back? Who's the watchdog here? Who's supposed to be protecting us? Well, that brings us to the FSSAI. That's the FSSAI, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. They're the top national authority responsible for regulating our food all the way from manufacturing to distribution. It is their job to set the standards and enforce them to keep us safe. So, their main mission is to take this whole web of old, complicated laws and streamline them into one single, clear scientific standard. They've also launched some great initiatives like Eat Right India and Clean Street Food Hubs. But their challenge is, well, it's monumental. I mean, they have to oversee millions of unorganized vendors across this huge, diverse country.
A problem on this scale, it needs more than just traditional enforcement. It requires a whole new way of thinking, some really innovative strategies to fix what is, frankly, a broken chain.
And that new approach is starting to happen. On one side, you've got a policy shift, moving away from just punishing vendors and towards empowering them with training and resources. On the other side, you've got tech. This includes using things like blockchain, which is just a super secure digital ledger to trace food from the farm right to your fork.
Plus, they have these mobile labs they call Food Safety on Wheels to bring testing directly to local markets.
Now, while regulators and technology are doing their part, a huge amount of power to drive change is actually in our hands. So, what's in your defense toolkit? What can you do to protect yourself and your family? Here are 4 really practical things. First, actually read the label. Ignore the marketing on the front and check the real ingredients on the back. Second, go to the FSSAI's website and download the DART book. It's a guide for simple tests you can do at home to spot common fakes. Third, when you're at a restaurant, look for the hygiene rating sticker. And finally, if you see something wrong, report it. The FSSAI Connect app lets you snap a photo and send it directly to the authorities.
Because in the end, food safety isn't just a government job. It's a shared responsibility. Demanding better standards isn't just about protecting ourselves right now, it's about ensuring a healthier, safer generation for tomorrow. So the real question isn't just what's for dinner, it's what are we all going to do to make it safe?